Hello and welcome to the Empower Couples podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And get ready for this episode on what women don't understand about men.
And I truly had to learn this. And for some of you listening, this is going to be a huge aha breakthrough moment. And you're going to be like, yes, this explains so much. And for others, maybe you've heard it before or you've read it before, but it's going to be an incredible reminder. And you're going to say, this is exactly what I needed to hear.
Because it's easy to forget. And I'll also say, to be honest, some men don't understand this need about themselves.
True.
So they're not necessarily communicating or going about it the most healthy way.
Exactly. Now, what's cool about this is we don't just read books and hear philosophies. We talk to couples all day, every day, but we also talk to the individuals within the partnership. And I often will see Aaron, even during our breaks in between sessions, on the phone with one of the men that's a part of the couple. And so he gets to hear this directly from their experience.
And where else?
You're also
my own experience. I am a man. And I have definitely had this dynamic happen that I also didn't realize that it was coming from this need. And to be honest, I think for myself, I haven't done the greatest job of identifying this and taking what I need for myself and then expressing it to you, obviously. So this was really brought about as a reminder, again, even for me, from some good friends of ours over the weekend.
Exactly. Now, if you are wondering, hey, how do we get on the phone with one of you guys or both of you and do a session, you can actually go to meetthefreemans.com/coaching and book a relationship breakthrough session with us. This is actually the opportunity to really see the kind of results that we produce with couples and why at the end of just 1 hour, they will say, wow, like I really needed to hear this. This is exactly what we needed. And it works much faster than just trying to figure it out on your own. So go ahead and book a relationship breakthrough session
at meetthefreemans.com/coaching, which is also in the show notes. So let's get right to it. All right, get ready for this statement. Hold on to something. What women don't understand about men is they need a break from you.
Okay, that sounds a little harsh.
Wait a second. Let that simmer. Let me have it breathe a little bit. What I'm not saying, however, though, is that it's all the time or that it's for a long period of time, or that it means some version of the relationship not being whole or like ended at all. Mm-hmm. What I'm also not saying is that it's even personal to you. Now, I said it kind of bold, right? What I'm saying is men need a break from you. But that isn't to say that it's personal because you've been too fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I guess I've been too controlling or dominating or critical or too much feedback.
Needy.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. It doesn't actually have anything to do necessarily with your actions or you as an individual partner to them.
And I know you're going to go more into this and where it even comes from. And there's going to be an analogy that really makes sense to you in just a moment. But I want to speak to the not taking it personal part, because that's a big thing I really had to work through.
That's probably the biggest thing that is happening.
Yes.
So again, I will give towards the end what men need to be doing different to identify this and request what they need for this time. But yes, to your point, what typically happens, it comes out as a reactive, usually like the man will just turn away, walk away, be dismissive,
or just kind
not
of
say
silent.
anything, could be silent, could leave the house, could just leave the room. Exactly. So what is going to benefit you if you're listening as a partner to a male is, yes, this is not in particular because it's because of something I'm doing or not doing right.
Yeah, or that it doesn't happen in any other relationship besides yours.
That's a good point.
You know, like if he really loved you, he wouldn't need that time away, or you bother him and something's wrong. And so I would almost like get anxious and overcompensate because I was taking it personally.
Yeah.
You want to go into the analogy because I think the visual representation makes sense.
Yeah, not our analogy. It's actually come from studies that were put together by John Gray and in the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. So you're like, oh yeah, I did read that book a long time ago. which I actually listened. I remember listening to an audiobook like back when we first got married. So the analogy in the book is about a rubber band. So men do have this need and also response time, if you will, where they pull away. So if you pull a rubber band, then obviously it stretches, it creates distance from one point to the other. However, it does come back to its original shape. Mm-hmm. And this is the need that women probably not understanding now, and men are not understanding even about yourself. So it's about creating some personal time. I'm going to give 2 scenarios in which this shows up, but men need this distance. But as a partner to a male, if you realize that they do need this time, then you give them the space to quote unquote go away and to trust that they do come back to the original quote unquote shape if they do the right things in that time period.
Right. And so what this can look like in terms of our experience on the receiving end of this is it's almost as if like, wait, why are you quiet? Why do you seem more withdrawn or even physically kind of leaving the space? And so it can seem like something's wrong because wait, what about last weekend? We had this great weekend. We were spending time together and we had this awesome date and we're laughing and all that. And now you seem more in your head and you seem more quiet and you're not wanting to spend as much time with me. And so we can then think something's wrong. And again, we get kind of amped up and the quote unquote mistake, and it's an unconscious mistake that we can make on the receiving end of this, is we can then pursue further. Right? It's no, like connect with me, and kind of almost overwhelm them because we perceive it as something's wrong, which almost has them more unconsciously pull away. And then that can spark a fight because it's almost this battle for closeness versus separateness. And it's really just coming from the need for the men to process. And by the way, we're not saying that women don't also need this too. Women can definitely need alone time, quiet time, processing time. And we're going to also address something that men don't understand about women in our next episode too. So you're not left out.
So let's give 2 scenarios in which this shows up. The first being a heightened and prolonged time of emotion. So sometimes this is referred to as being emotionally flooded. So this would be like when a conflict comes up and you also have other terms like harsh startup, right? So that's when you have a lower love account. Maybe this has been more of a frequent pattern. So it does go from that feeling of 0 to 100. So it's really that 100. That's the moment that, and for both people, but men are emotionally flooded where the body is literally like, I can't take this anymore. It might even feel like slightly traumatizing, beyond boundaries. And men have a different way of sort of reacting to that than women do. And so it can be a moment which right then and there, men could just turn away, could just stop saying anything. We had an instance with someone that we were working with where they were on a trip, and trips are funny because trips are supposed to be like, oh, we're relaxed, we're connected, but patterns still come with you, right? And there's even more expectations often that are unexpressed. And so there was a moment where the male partner literally left, and they were in a new city, left the partner, turned his phone off, and like completely disappeared. That's maybe more of an extreme version of a continued need that is going unmet and unidentified by the male in that instance, right?
Well, and I want to just define being emotionally flooded a little bit more. So those are those moments where there's been so much that's maybe happened in that tense conversation or argument, and you almost cannot like distinguish and process the emotion right then. It feels so overwhelming in your body, in your mind, that you can't like talk through it right then or process. They like need to pull away and create that space to regulate their emotions and to think through it more calmly.
So in that moment, I said in the beginning what they need a break is from you, and so I know that was bold. In this scenario, what men feel they need a break from is going to be like the questions or feeling of being prodded or poked for give me an answer. Like, why is this happening? What is the source? What's going on for you? Or even just a break from talking, which is exactly to what you're saying. What men need, what we need in that time is actually to downregulate our own emotions, reflect, which ends up being the first step of the 5 R's, right? And to be with ourselves, to identify what's really coming up. And that's basically this scenario kind of wrapped up.
Exactly. Now, before you go to the second scenario, which I think is going to be a huge aha for people, just a quick request. If you take away value from our podcast, would you mind taking 2.5 seconds? That's how long it can take. And just clicking a 5-star review in the platform. It really makes a difference for us and all the time that we devote to this podcast. A review on the platform that you're listening to would make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for doing that. So the second scenario, because you have those conflicts that come up, obviously it's more magnified if you aren't doing a repair process. So you would feel these conflict moments, these harsh startups, this being flooded more often if you're not repairing all the way. Or if men aren't actually taking the time to reflect and to identify these things. But the other scenario is interesting because it's long periods of being physically around each other. This might have been a primary pattern that you noticed going through the pandemic or lockdown or whatever you want to call that period of 2020 and 2021, is because the two of you were put together in physical proximity so much. And what needs to happen is there needs to be just a break, a period of separation between the two of you, which was really not happening because you were almost being forced together. You were working from home. You were you were supposed to be inside all the time. And so this is just an interesting one because nothing is in conflict, but just being around each other all the time is really not creating this space that we've been talking about men need. And if you think about it, long time ago, men used to go out and hunt.
And be away for like weeks at a time.
I don't know, days or weeks, or whatever was really needed to go out there. And I want to talk about here in a moment, I think you had something, what needs to happen in those periods. However, it's not just going away and then distracting yourself and not doing these few things, but this is a second scenario, just really being around each other a lot without this separation.
Now, you referred to, the 2020, 2021 timeframe. However, just looking at the average week in life, let's say you go on a little trip together and you're around each other and you had a great time and then you come back, they may need some separation after that. Or you go to a family function and they're talking a ton and they're engaging with you and with the family. You might see that they are a little more withdrawn the evening that you get back. So even just think about your average week and those moments where you're around each other a lot and how they may need some separation after that.
And remember, it's not even personal to you or the things that you're doing as a partner. So what men need a break from really is either like the hustle or the grind, the tasks
or engagement,
and activities, the management of life. It's really a break from outside distractions that are keeping you from listening to your own intuition, would be one way to say it. Another way to say it is outside distractions keeping you from being aligned to yourself, aligned to your individual soul purpose for being here, if you will, because a lot of times these distractions, the bills being paid, the things you have to put your time on to provide for a family, things that you get caught up in, it takes you away from what is my purpose sometimes. And then maybe the biggest thing, and it's tied to both of those as well, it's a distraction from listening and connecting to God, really. And it's this time period, it's the hunt, the going out and like hunting or being alone. It really is the refueling for the higher masculine to come back to itself. And the higher masculine is about, I'll say me as a man, feeling that I have a trust within my higher self. I trust life. I am getting guidance from God. So it's a trust in me operating in the world, operating in my marriage, operating with the family, and also adds to my decisiveness, my confidence, my certainty. Not that things are going to work out how I plan, but that they're just going to work out, that they're already worked out, that I'm on my path. And I was really invited into this from our two friends, Michael and Mackenzie, this weekend, that's a place I need to take more time. Even our friend Michael was like, I know I need that time right now too. And he's really been focused on connecting to that guidance. Because, as you mentioned too, the benefit to a female partner is that you feel the energy and the presence of confidence and assurance within the marriage. And this is why this dynamic is really important. If we as men are not taking this time, then we feel a little bit on edge, chaotic, the hustle, the grind. It gets us a little bit out of balance. It
Kind of a
feels
loss
like
of clarity,
a
too.
wobble zone. And then we get a little unsure, kind of doubt ourselves. Maybe we're focused on the wrong place. And then you feel that as a female partner, and it sets you a little bit on edge because you can't lean into the higher masculine. When we say higher masculine, when you're focusing on all the outside distractions, we do fall into, we're supposed to be the lower masculine, which is the hustle, the grind, the being reactive, the forceful or misaligned actions that we feel like we have to take to keep up or whatever society is trying to say.
It makes so much sense. I think that's really clear the way you described it too, and how important it is for men. And again, it doesn't mean women don't also need that. We're just focusing on men right now to get that recalibration, tuning back into their clarity, your clarity and not having all the outside impulses and the questions and the needing to engage. They can really turn inward. I also read something interesting that in moments like this, where they need this alone time, it's helpful to not feel as though they need to answer to someone or be accountable to anything. They kind of just need like a moment. Like, no one's counting on me for like 5 minutes or however long it is, a day. I don't have to answer to anyone. I can just be with myself. And that recalibration is important. So question for you, Aaron. Now you were going to talk about the impact of this. If men don't have awareness of this and they're not communicating it, you've got a great analogy about rubber bands. They can stretch too far, right?
Yeah, so I guess wrapping up this episode, there are a couple of things that men need to be accountable and responsible for doing. You don't just disappear and then justify not communicating, not making their request, not making sure that it fits and it's not going to impact the rest of the family, and justify it by saying, I'm a rubber band, and you just go.
Just understand this.
Because rubber bands can stretch too far. You can, or it can be stretched so often that it wears out. And you can make your analogy to how you feel within a marriage, that you just keep distancing yourself or you go further and further. And then there's obviously human needs. So if you go farther and farther and then you start filling needs other places or other people, that's obviously not good. Or if you're not repairing and you have to frequently feel like you get this time, that's going to also strain the marriage. You're going to diminish, trust as well. So what us men need to do is to understand and realize this need within ourselves, and understand when either the emotional flooded, the conflict scenario, or we just kind of been together, maybe you and I, or just haven't given myself either disconnect time from all of life's activities and demands. So understanding that, and then properly communicating, hey, I'm realizing that need for myself, and I would say this to you, and if you don't do that and you just take this time as more of a selfish, uncommunicated type of
expectation or just withdrawal.
Yeah, withdrawal, exactly. That's good. Then the other partner is going to diminish their feeling of safety, trust, and will erode the connection.
Well, and interestingly, a couple that we've been working with here now, they had this scenario pop up because he was actually kind of quiet for a day and a half over a Sunday, Monday. And in that period of time where men are more distant inward and they aren't communicating it, women will afterwards need kind of some affirmation and connection, because in a way their connection tank is a little bit lower now because you've been on your own. And so we talked with them about how, okay, it's completely fine that you need that time. However, know that when you're coming back to her, emotionally, physically, energetically, you're coming back to be present, that she may need some affirmation, some connection, and to feel as though you acknowledge you're back, you love her, you're connected, and that really made sense to them.
Yeah. We're starting to get into what the next episode is probably going to be about, on what men don't understand about women. And I would venture to say that so I won't speak for all women, but you would want to hear from, as a place of connection, and also that the time was valuable, like what I gleaned. Like, did I refill my cup? Did I actually go within? Did I connect to my higher self, purpose, God?
Or get clarity on something, or...
Yeah. So that time was actually kind of valuable, and not that it always has to be, quote unquote, I get an answer, but ideally I would come back with a higher or more full tank.
Exactly.
Whatever that tank would be. From self-care, from love, from joy, from peace. So that would be a key thing to look at, I would say. Even if you do communicate you need this time and you go do that, but you're not doing the right things. You're not meditating, you're not contemplating, you're not giving yourself, as a male in this case, the spaciousness to connect to your intuition, to God, to your purpose. A signal of that would be you come back and you are not energetically any different.
That's good. That's so true. I love those.
Because I've done that, right? And I guess I have to say, I feel like I've tried sometimes and I didn't maybe get the answer. I don't know if I didn't do it right or the timing wasn't right, but I have taken that time and then come back to the home, and I'm not that much different than when I took that space.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's really about being intentional of when you're taking that time away to be like, what's going to actually serve me right now and therefore serve our partnership. So I love those key takeaways. Communicate it to your partner when you're needing that time. Let them know why it's needed, that it's okay. It doesn't mean anything about, threatening the partnership. So I really hope that this rubber band analogy and the whole idea was either a really good reminder for you if you've heard something similar before, or for some of you, a huge aha moment. And that's always what we want, is we want you to listen to these episodes and feel as though it makes a real difference in your relationship right now. And if you are further needing support to overcome some kind of a challenge, a roadblock, something you just can't kind of get through on your own, book a relationship breakthrough session with us. We go right into a tool, a breakthrough conversation. You're going to leave that hour feeling like there's momentum in a positive direction. So go to meetthefreemans.com/coaching and see why couples love it so much. If you're in Arizona, just an FYI, we have our last couples workshop coming up of 2022.
2 weeks.
Exactly. And so make sure if you are in or near Arizona, you are at that workshop on October 9th, 2022, and you can go to thecouplesworkshop.com. It is our favorite thing to do, maybe. We love everything that we do, but we love the workshops. Now, with that, we love you all, and we can't wait to talk to you on the next episode.